Now, some other friends of ours who RV a lot, they said, hey, you got your new RV, do yourself a favor and replace all the tires on your RV. The tires that come with them are notoriously iffy, I guess you could say. They're not rated for fairly high speed highway speeds. They're not good quality performance tires. Let's just be honest, they're not. And that was on my list of things to do. I just hadn't gotten to it in the first 2 years or so that we've been doing this. But when I bought my spare tire and then mounted it on the back bumper, I bought a quality, high performance, better RV trailer type tire. So there's one right there on the back, and left the ones that came with it on the ground. Well, one of those ones that came with it failed somewhere in the first 2 hours of travel after we took off. I check everything before we take off. We check our turn signals, we check air in the tires, in the RV, in our tow vehicle. We do a walk around. We treat it like it's an airplane, and we do a pre-flight check and make sure everything's ready to go. So everything was. Well, we got to the state park that we were just going to for like the weekend, basically, a little bit longer. And as we were checking in, pulled up, somebody from a car behind us came around and knocked on our window and said, "Hey, your tire's flat. It's completely flat. It's bad." Oh my gosh! I got out and I walked back there. Yeah, I mean it was empty, flat, running on the side walls, flat. Oh my gosh! And so, okay, well, you might remember a few months ago, I did a video specifically about the tools you need in order to be able to deal with a tire problem, okay? Inflation, underinflation, whatever. And said some tools you really kind of need to have. And I have those tools. I thought I was prepared. I've got my own little portable pump. I've got a four-way lug wrench. I've got a jack that is more heavy duty, I guess you could say, than one that comes with most cars nowadays. And I've got some other tools. I've got a patch kit, plug kit for radial or bias tires. I think I'm ready to go. I wasn't ready to go at all, okay? And if you are ready to hear what happened, and I think you probably should maybe learn from my mistake, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If this is a video that you think your friends could appreciate, hey, be sure and share it with them. We'd really appreciate that a lot. Okay, let's get started. Well, I said in my video about tools that you need, yeah, the four-way lug wrench, because chances are that lug wrench, that little folding lug wrench that comes in the back of your station wagon or a little SUV or something like that, is not going to fit the lug nuts on your RV. Hey, you can check it and see, and if by chance they do, great. But I'll bet you money right now, I'll bet you $10 right now, they don't. They won't fit it, okay? And that little bitty jack that comes with your car, it's not heavy duty at all, okay? I'd like something a little bit better, okay? And I thought I planned well for that, okay? No, I didn't, okay? Anyway, flat as can be. I mean, I thought, well, it looks like it's not coming apart yet. I limped down to the camping area, the camping loop, and boy, backing an RV up into a campsite that's got a flat tire, it just doesn't want to move like you expect it to. It doesn't, you're used to being able to turn the wheel and you see the rear end go where you want. It doesn't want to do that, okay? And it takes a lot more effort backing the car just to get it to go, and you're having to step on the gas kind of hard, and it's just not a fun thing to do. Then, to make matters worse, I have never ever camped on a campsite that was as unlevel, as uneven as this one. It was unbelievable. The difference between left and right was well over a foot of height, okay? And that ends up being a problem later, Okay, so here we are. We got a flat tire. We have a spare. I know it's a good spare. Worst case scenario, I take off that tire and I'll put the spare on. And then maybe, you know, we just keep going down the road or whatever we need to do. Well, that's not that easy at all. All right? And there's a guy in a campsite right next to us who is tent camping. And when I say tent, I'm being very generous with that term. The tent is not some big tent like you might see, even though he's got a back-end camping spot, not a tent spot. He's got a relatively small car, like a Honda or something like that, and a little Honda SUV or something. And he's got this tent, and this tent is about, I don't know, a little over 6 feet long and maybe 2.5 or 3 feet tall and about that wide. It's about the size of an upside down bathtub, you know, and it's a nice little tent. Well, this guy, turns out that he came there to this pretty little campsite, this pretty little state park, which we made a video about, to kind of get away and catch up on some reading, some studying that he's doing, and stuff like that, okay? And just have a peaceful time to himself. And unfortunately, he ended up next to us, who, and of course, we're loud, and now we've got a flat tire, and we got all kinds of, he said, y'all need some help over there? Well, RVers, we're like, no, we got it, that kind of thing. Well, all right, so here is the RV, flat tire. I've got a spare, that's not a problem. Well, and it's starting to get hot. It wasn't supposed to get that, it's supposed to get maybe 90 degrees, and here it is, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's already 91 degrees or something like that, and we're in the sun, and well, I got to deal with this spare tire. So I had some like fishing, I don't know, whatever, change a flat tire on the side of the road type clothes and some old BDUs and things like that. So I changed and put on a t-shirt, put on these ratty trousers and went to work on it. I got out my heavy duty jack. This jack is much more formidable, carries more weight, lifts more weight than the one that comes with my car or even most cars nowadays. It's pretty heavy. I've had this thing for years and years and years. I never use it for a jack, for jacking up my car. What I use it for is like a jack stand. I may jack up the car by some other means and then put this underneath it, and I usually just stick a screwdriver in here and turn that, and like I said, use it for a jack stand just to hold the car in the position I want it to be in while I'm changing shocks or something like that. And just as an extra lift, and that kind of deal. And I've used it to change out an old van I had years ago. The fuel gauge sending device was actually in the tank, and I had to lower the tank down and get to the top of it to fix it. I used this thing to help me do that. I put a board on top of here and put it, and it worked great. Okay, all right. But like I said, I've had it for years, and I've never really used it for a primary jack. So I thought, you know what I'll do? I'll buy a handle that's made for it. The way it works, this thing goes in here, and then you can use this handle. It turns kind of, like this sort of thing. Oh, that's going to work great. Bought this on Amazon. Unfortunately, it looks like it would work perfectly. It would go in this hole here and then tilt up, and then it would move a little bit. Now, get close up here in a second. It is just a little too big to go in that groove right there, okay? And I'll show, maybe we'll do a better close-up or something in a minute. I'm gonna have to drill that out and make it so this thing works there. I never even thought to check it. I mean, it looks like pretty standard kind of equipment, but no, it won't go in there. Neither will the thing like this that came with my car. Oh, gosh. And so I have this thing down on the ground. I am crawling halfway underneath the RV, trying to jack up the RV on a site that's leaning like this, okay? And the guy sitting over there reading his book says, "Y'all sure you don't need some help over there?" And my lovely wife said, "Go ask him for help." "No, I'm a man, I don't need to do that." Well, okay. He asked me again, and I went over there and I said, "Well, I don't know if you can help me or not, unless you have a floor jack in that tent or in that little Honda or something by chance. I don't know how you can help me. He says, well, I do have a jack. Maybe it'll work. You know, I never thought about it. I have a jack in the back of my car that is a jack, and it will certainly work with its own components. Duh, okay. He goes over and he gets this little jack out of the back of his Honda, and he goes over and he lays down on his belly and down underneath the... Oops, sorry, we had a little camera memory problem there. Where was I? Oh yeah. So now I've got this thing that is pretty much useless, okay? And because it's got this useless thing. And Brian is underneath the RV. Brian, thank you, Brian, is underneath the RV on his belly, reaching under there with his little Honda jack, trying to jack this thing up. It's way down. The difference between, say, the left side and the right side of this pad is over a foot. So we're jacking it up like crazy, and I'm thinking, well, there's got to be some way I can help him. Well, the stabilizing jacks on the back of our 17B are not made to actually lift the RV. They're made to be touching the ground and stabilize it, and that's about it. The ones that I put on the front are heavy duty, and they're like 3,000 pounds a piece or more, that kind of thing. And so I start trying to jack them up to see if I can raise it up a little bit there. I use the tongue jack to try to raise everything up. Next thing I know, every single jack I have on this thing is extended to where it's not even like that diamond shape anymore. It's just straight up, and the RV still isn't level, and it still isn't off the ground enough to get the tire off. So I got to kind of jack these things back down, put some of my blocks underneath it, put blocks underneath the tongue jack, and keep doing it. Meanwhile, Brian is down there going like this, doing like a quarter turn to try to get this thing off the ground. Thank goodness he finally does, and we use my 4-way lug wrench, thank goodness, because none of us had one that would fit it except for that. 4-way lug wrench gets it off pretty easy, and now we got this tire that's, you know, I've got plug kits for either steel belted or radial whatever tires that will work. And if there's like a nail or something in it, I can pull that out and I can plug it, put that thing in there and keep on going and do it. Well, I can't find a nail or a puncture or anything. This tire just failed. I don't know how, but it did. Okay, well, let's see what we can do. With any luck, in town, not too far away, 10-15 minute drive from this state park, maybe they've got a discount tire. And here it is, a Saturday. And we look it up on the old internet, and sure enough, there's a discount tire that's going to close in about 30 minutes or something, right? Something like that. Well, we throw the tire in the back of our tow vehicle or SUV and take off and head to town. We get there, and I go in, and by now it's kind of expanded out, so it'll roll. I roll it in, and I tell the guy there at Discount Tire, hey, this is on an RV. We were just coming here. It failed on the road. And they were very sympathetic and very nice. We like Discount Tire, and they didn't take but a few minutes to sell me a new tire. And they said, yeah, the sidewall's messed up on this one, which I kind of already suspected. And so they sold me a new tire, put it on the rim, and I put it back in our car, took it back to the campsite, and put it back on. It took, I don't know, 2 hours or more to do all this, maybe longer, to get this thing done and do it, which in terms of breaking down on the side of the road, that's actually pretty good, you know? And we put that on there, started jacking things down, doing all kinds of stuff. And still though, leveling the RV was just terrible because of the way this site was. But we got a new tire on the ground. And not only that, but it's a good town. It's a more, it's a higher performance tire. It's got, it's rated, lots of ways they rate tires better, okay? And I'm real happy about that. And so things are good. I thought, well, now what do we do? Okay? And it occurred to me, and on the way home a few days later, we stopped off at Discount Tire, and I told them, hey, I came here, I bought a tire from you guys, but right now things aren't kind of the way I would like it. Like if I brought the whole trailer here, I would have it a different way. And I've got this high performance tire on the back, and I've got one on the ground, and then I've got one of these iffy tires on the ground. Can you switch it around? They said, sure, no problem. You got a few minutes? After we get a couple other people done, we'll do it for you. Well, we sat there for like 30 minutes while they finished up another car, and this, I want to say kid, he was probably 20 something, comes out, and it didn't take him 5 minutes to take my good spare off, put it on the ground, take the tire that was the original equipment one, which of course will work as a spare, put that back on there, and we're good to go. We have 2 good higher performance tires on the ground. We've got the lesser performance tire as a spare. Everything is good. Everything worked out great. But oh my gosh, I thought I had it all planned out, and it turns out that the thing I needed most right here, I'm gonna have to modify it to make it work. I don't know where the moral of the story is, where the lesson to be learned is. Make sure you have what you need. Make sure you have what will work. Having that 4-way lug wrench, that thing saves the day. I believe in those. Having a good jack would have helped. A better jack than that little jack that came with the Honda would have been nice. And so anyway, that's the story of a flat tire on the road. Kind of a happy ending. It could have been so much worse. If that tire, if we'd gone another 50 miles, maybe that tire would have come apart. It would have damaged the RV. Who knows what would have happened? We could have had a wreck, all kinds of things. Check your equipment before you take off. Make sure you got everything you need. And like my buddy said 2 years ago, do yourself a favor, replace those inexpensive tires that came with the RV with something that's much better performance. And that'll help you a bunch. With that, I'm gonna leave you and say, hey, I hope if you have a disaster like we did, it turns out as good as it did. I've heard horror stories, and it could have been a lot worse. But hey, we were lucky, and we hope you're lucky too. Keep going down the road, keep having fun, and we'll see you next time. There we go.